Hi, this is Chantal, president of Invicta Fighting Championships, and you're listening to WMMA Scene Now. Why go anywhere else?
All right. Welcome back to WMAC Now, coming at you again with a special fight preview. We're going to be previewing all 8 fights from Invicta FC 36 this Friday, August 9th. It'll be at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. By the way, we will be doing a live fight companion, so stay tuned for that. A little bit of tidbits before I start going into the fights. A couple of notes here. 8 fights total with all weight classes represented. That's personally my favorite kind of Invicta event. I like the variety of having every weight class represented. Plus, you get to see more of your favorite fighters this way. There was one canceled fight. There was no opponent found for Kaitlyn. She was listed for a while as versus TBA. Apparently, they were unable to find someone for her. You know, Kaitlyn, she is currently suffering what I like to call Celine Haga syndrome, in that she has the record that it is very risky going to be very risky for anyone to fight her, because to beat her, having the losing record that she currently has, I think she's 5-6 now. Having the record she has, you beat her, it's not going to necessarily do a whole lot for your stock, even with that UFC veteran thing hanging on her. But if you lose to her, you just lost to someone with a losing record. So it's going to be hard for them to find fights for Kaitlyn at this time. One thing that she does have going for her, though, in finding opponents is that she is indeed a UFC veteran. So some fighters and managers will look, you get this win against her, you just beat a UFC veteran, so it looks good for other promoters too. So they'll find fighters for her. I have no doubt about that. Also, the headline is a title fight for the vacant featherweight title. This is the 4th time that the featherweight title has been fought for as vacant, including the first time, which was between Marloes Coenen and Cris Cyborg. To date, the only fighter to defend this title has been Cris Cyborg. After Cyborg vacated, Megan Anderson fought Charmaine Tweet for it, and then she vacated when she got called to the UFC. Then last year, it was fought for between Pam Sorenson and Felicia Spencer. Spencer vacated to go to the UFC. So now this is the 4th time that it is fought for as a vacant, and Pam Sorenson's back here against Kaitlyn Young. Okay, so we've talked about the card in general. Let's get down to each one of these fights. Starting with, in the bantamweight division, Megan Colley versus Julia Ottilie, both making their pro debuts. Looking at the stats, Colley is the older fighter, 29 years, or no, I'm sorry, Ottilie is the older fighter, 29 years to Colley's 26. Ottilie has a 1-inch reach or height advantage, 5'8" to 5'7", both right around the perfect height range for bantamweight. Don't have reach statistics available. So looking at these two, I had decided to go look at their amateur record. Colley has a 3-2 amateur record, whereas Ottilie only has 2 amateur fights, and the last time she fought was in 2015. So based on fighting more recently and overall experience in the amateurs, I'm picking Megan Colley to win this fight. So next up, also at bantamweight, is Erin Harp, 1-0, versus Autumn Norton, making her pro debut. I don't have a height available for Erin Harp. Norton's 5'4", a little short for bantamweight. Harp is older fighter by 4 years, 29 to Norton's 25. So this is another one based on one pro fight experience, and then looking at amateur experience. Now, Harp only had 2 amateur fights at 2014, and then she has 1 pro fight back in 2015. Then you look at Norton's record, only amateurs, 3-2. But again, most of her fights are from a while ago. She had 1 amateur fight in 2017, but then her last fight before that was a loss to Amberlyn Orr in the amateurs at 2014. Just going off, I really kind of took a guess on this one. I'm going to go with Harp on this one. No. Just a guess, really. Educated guess. Next up is a flyweight fight between 2 pros with equal records. We have Chantal Coates 1-0 taking on Kaitlyn Ginger Salmons 1-0. Now Coates has the distinction of, well, I'll get to that in a second. Let's look at the stats. Okay, Coates is the older fighter, 32 years to 25 years for Salmons. Salmons is the taller fighter by 1 inch, 5'4" to 5'3". However, Coates has a 1 inch reach advantage, 66 to 65. Now, based upon what I've seen on both of these fighters in their pro debuts, Coates got that 30-some second knockout, fastest in Invicta history, where Salmons went a little longer to finish her opponent. She went into the second round, winning by TKO due to ground and pound versus Christina Ricker. Looking at that, it's going to be hard for Coates to live up to her first fight, and didn't really get to see a whole lot of her. So based on having seen more of Salmons, I'm picking Salmons to win. Next up, going down to atom weight. Little Savage Anderson versus Katie Saul. Now, Katie Saul's coming in somewhat late notice replacement. Anderson's original opponent, Anastasia Nikolakakos, had to withdraw last week or the week before due to injury. Looking at the stats, Saul is the older fighter, 31 years to 24 for Anderson. Anderson, however, is very tall for an atomweight at 5'5", compared to Saul's 5'3". I don't have reach stats for them. 4-1 for Anderson. Saul is 3-3. Looking at the records and everything, breaking down what I've seen of them. Now, I haven't seen too much of Saul's fights. I've seen 2 of Anderson's fights. But looking at their resume and everything, Saul has the better names on the resume, but they're not all wins. Like, she split a pair of fights with Andy Wynn. Or no, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. She has a loss to B-Win, then a win versus Andy Wynn. The wins that I'm seeing on Anderson's record are stronger than the wins that I'm seeing on Saul's record initially. And just having seen more of Anderson, it prompts me to pick Anderson. Also, Anderson is a more consistent fighter. So I'm going with Anderson on that one. Which brings us back up to flyweight. Stephanie Holdfast Geltmacher versus Victoria Leonardo Fury. Geltmacher 4-0. Leonardo 5-1. I'm not sure the age of Leonardo. Geltmacher is 28 years old. Fury is the taller fighter, 5'4" to 5'1". However, they have an equal amount of reach, which tells you that Geltmacher has like a wide shoulders, usually wide shoulders and arms. Looking at these two, both have a very strong killer instinct. They both like to finish fights. Um, but to me, Geltmacher has looked like an unstoppable beast as a pro. So for that reason, I'm picking Geltmacher. Now, that's not to say that Leonardo isn't strong. Leonardo, very good finisher. I mean, like I said, both have a strong killer instinct. Fury, Leonardo has her last 3 wins by submission, whereas Geltmacher has more decisions recently than a finish. She did get that finish against Kerry Kennison. But the strong wrestling game and strong ground and pound are the reason that I'm going with Geltmacher on this one. Which brings us along to a feature fight at atomweight, Jessica Delboni versus Lindsay Van Zandt. Delboni is 8-1. Damsel Van Zandt is 6-1. Now, looking at the stats, Van Zandt is older by a year. Really not much, actually. Less than a month older, it looks like. Van Zandt's actually the taller fighter by 1 inch. That's pretty rare for her. She's 5'2 to 5'1. And Van Zandt is going to have a 3-inch reach advantage, 65 inches to 62. Looking at these two, both are pretty well-rounded, but Van Zandt has, more consistently fought tougher opponents, in my mind, from what I can see on the record. For some reason, I thought Delboni was the bigger fighter. Well, Delboni has more fights at strawweight, whereas Van Zandt is a natural atomweight. So, actually, I think Delboni only has 1 fight at atomweight, and that was a loss to Ashley Cummins, which is no shame there, and that was last November. Since then, she went back down to strawweight for 1 fight in Brazil back in April. But looking at all of her fights before that, they were all at strawweight. So that weight, that natural weight, could be a factor for Van Zandt, or in favor of Delboni and against Van Zandt. But Van Zandt has consistently fought, tougher opponents. Melissa Karagianis, who is a former King of the Cage champ. B. Wynn, who now fights in 1 championship. And then she just got that fight at 112 against Reina Kubota. She actually, you could argue that, she was standing and trading very well with Kubota. So for that reason, having that more consistent record against, strong opponents, whereas Delboni has some good wins on her record, but most of her wins are against opponents with less fights than her. I'm going to have to go with Van Zandt. I'm going to have to go with my fellow American here. Although patriotism has nothing to do with it. Which brings us to our co-main event fight, a strawweight fight between Janessa Evil Princess Morandin taking on Emily Gordina Ducote. Ducote making her Invicta debut. She is a Bellator veteran, however. So, Evil Princess Morandin is 10-2. Ducote 7-5. Ducote older by about a year, 25 years to 24. Ducote has a 2-inch height advantage on Morandin, 5'2 to 5'0. Both are fairly short for strawweight. Morandin's actually very short for strawweight. She's actually more sized for, height-wise, is more sized for atomweight, but we've seen that she has had trouble making it in the past. She's had trouble making strawweight. Don't have a reach from Morandin. Ducote has a 63-inch reach. So looking at these two, who they fought, how they fight, both are very well-rounded. Morandin very strong on the ground. Ducote's pretty well-rounded as well. So looking at their record, Ducote's coming off a win versus 3 straight losses previously. Mirandin is coming off a loss, preceded by a win, preceded by a loss, preceded by 2 wins. You could argue that Mirandin has the stronger, more recent record based on wins-losses. However, Ducote is finally back down to strawweight after fighting in flyweight consistently in Bellator. She went in there as a strawweight and then fought flyweight. Now she's back down to strawweight, picked up a first win. Back down in the weight class earlier this year. That was in about 6 months ago versus Kaitlyn Paparaki, which was a nice win. And you could say Ducote was facing consistently tough opponents at flyweight. So she was fighting up a weight and fighting very tough opponents. I'm going to have to pick Ducote on this one. I think now she's going to shine a lot better down here at strawweight than she did. Which brings us to our main event fight for featherweight for the vacant Invicta FC Featherweight Championship. We have Pam Bam Sorenson versus Kaitlyn, the striking Viking Young. Sorenson coming in 7-3. Kaitlyn Young coming in 10-9-1. Looking at the stats, they're the same age, 33 years old. I didn't realize Sorenson was that old. Whereas with Young, honestly, I didn't realize Kaitlyn Young was only 33. So you're younger than me. She's been fighting for practically 13 years as a pro. So, you know, when someone starts fighting really young and then you follow their career, you tend to think that they're older than they are for some reason. Young is the taller fighter, 5'9" to 5'5". I don't have a reach stat available for Sorenson. Young has a reach of 68 inches. Okay, so you have someone who's well-rounded in Sorenson versus a striking specialist in Young who can kind of hold her own on the ground, but looking at most of her losses, I believe they're by submission. Her two most recent losses, which were back in 13 and 14, were decision. Topology doesn't always update. For some reason, I thought she had most of her losses by submission. Let's see. Young is on a bit of a win streak since she came back to fighting. 3-fight win streak. Beat King Reina in Ryzen about a year ago. Then she beat Sarah Patterson with that nasty leg kick TKO. And then she beat Faith McMahon. Sorenson is coming off a loss to Felicia Spencer last year back at Invicta FC. I believe it was 30? No. I forget which event it was. Well, let's see which one it was real quick. Invicta 32 last November. Since then, Sorenson had to go through, she had some stomach surgery, had a big old tumor removed. So she's coming off with some ring rust. Like I was saying, Sorenson has a better ground game, but she's going to have to get it there against a far superior striker in Kaitlyn Young. And she's going to have to fight for that takedown the whole time. And, you know, Young has just been there. She's fought just about everyone. She's fought every type of style you can see. And factoring in the ring rust for Sorenson, coming off that surgery, I'm going to have to give this one to Kaitlyn Young. I think she'll walk out of there with the title. And it'll be nice to see her get a title. I don't think she's held a major title in MMA ever. So we're going to go with Kaitlyn Young. Okay, so that is my picks for Invicta FC 38. Hoping I get at least half of those right. Last weekend my picks were hot garbage. I think I went 3 for 8 on my picks. Yeah, 3 for 8. on them. Not good. So hopefully Invicta helps bring me back this weekend. Keep in mind, I am a live fight companion is planned. So if you don't want to listen to whoever's doing the commentary this week and you want to hear me just make jokes and stuff and talk about whiskey as well as the fights the whole time, stay tuned for that. It's going to be 8 Eastern Time, Friday, August 9th. So tune in for that. In the meantime, let me know your picks in the comments down below. Likes are always appreciated. And hey, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to WMAC now, the best, fastest growing women's mixed martial arts dedicated platform on YouTube. And we'll see you next time.